Technical Assistant Specialist and Lab Coordinator at the Maryland Network Against Domestic Violence. I've been there for about 3 years, and I will be your facilitator for this panel discussion today. I have 4 amazing panelists here with me, so I will have them briefly introduce themselves.
Hi everybody, my name is Megan Elbin. I am a Partnerships Associate and Project Manager with Safe Stays by ReloShare. Prior to my role at Safe Stays, I worked in advocacy for 7 years. I ran my county's 24/7 crisis. More to come.
Thanks, Kara. Hello, everyone. This is my first conference. I'm very nervous. But what do you do when you're getting abused by a woman and you call police for your safety, and when the police arrive, the woman pretends that she's a victim. She cries, she accuses you of choking her, and puts on the performance of a lifetime, completely terrifying you as a man. That's the situation that I found myself in. And the police were completely gaslit. They believed her completely without her showing any evidence, because anything never happened. And then they were questioning me as if I was the abuser. Thankfully, the Holy Spirit had whispered in my ear months before and had started recording the abuse. But even then, when I told the detective and the officers that I had this information, I even had a GPS tracker, that's stalking. I had a GPS tracker that she had put in my car. They would refuse to even take the evidence from me. So I had just $200, that's what I had left, because these people, they have not a shred of remorse. They'll drain your bank account, they'll leave you alone. And that's all the money I had, and I booked 1 hour with a criminal attorney. And he just told me, I'm getting to what I do here. He told me, tell me what happened. I'm gonna match it to statutes. And I was like, statutes? What does that even mean? Like, by a show of hands, don't feel bad, because I didn't know. How many of you have heard the word statute before? Good, this is great. At the time, I didn't know. And the attorney was matching my situation with the criminal statute codes, which are little codes that correspond with the abuse that I suffered. And he told me, I want you to re-engage with police and lead with the statute codes in a very calm manner and show the supporting evidence you have to satisfy the statute requirements. And what do you know? I turned all the false allegations, turned them all the way around, they're all dismissed, and now she's being sent to the prosecutor for felony charges. And in that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, like what just happened here? Like, people need to have this justice, the one that I'm gonna receive. And then God gave me the idea to start an artificial intelligence that's absolutely free, anonymous, available 24/7, that anyone of you can use right now, which you simply chat with it, you tell it your situation in very colloquial terms, like she put a GPS tracker in my car, she threw a kitchen plate at me, and it'll spit back out to you the statute codes that correspond with the abuse you suffered. And then it tells you what to do, what evidence you need to collect. So that's the introduction, and my name is Rafael Testai from statutematcher.org. Thank you.
Candidate for digital access to you. However, not everyone needs the secure wrapper, but we took the next step of the features inside of the app to make sure there's no history, there's no trace, there's no cookies being left out on devices, making sure that we're almost a step ahead of what is happening in this industry.
Awesome, thank you. Well, anyone can go into the chat and get their statute codes, even the abusers, and I suppose that could give them leverage. But really what matters is who has the evidence to prove the statutes. So I tie this into something that I teach that's completely controversial to the industry standard, which, let me ask you this question. If you're out for a hike and you see a mountain lion, what's the worst thing you can do? Run. But unfortunately, this is where I disagree with a lot of the training is we teach the victims when they're in an abusive relationship to get their medicine, to get all their essentials and flee. And I think that triggers the predatory instinct in the abuser. What I teach people, and all cases are different, of course. There are cases where true danger is present, and yes, you must flee that situation, of course. We have to make that rational decision, case-by-case scenario. But I teach people documentation before separation, because you may never have another chance to live with the abuser. So while you're there, we all have these awesome mobile devices, which we can put face down while having dinner and get the other person to admit some of the abuse they've done, etc., and collect evidence. So to make it safe, to tie back to the question, is make sure that you document before you separate. And now you have the supporting evidence for your statute codes.
Okay, so there are really 3 key parts to this question. So there's security, data retention, and privacy. And so I'm going to answer all 3 of those parts one by one. So security is something that's very close to my heart. Our system is built on multiple industry-leading, battle-tested platforms that are maintained by world-class. So privacy in the DV space, it is
that those phone calls were made.
To receive access to the free 24/7 legal resources that our artificial intelligence offers, you never have to say who you are. You can remain completely anonymous, and it doesn't collect any information about you in that regard. So it's private and anonymous. And the privacy policy is the same one as ChatGPT 4+. For context, the woman that was handing out business cards is my mother holding the phone here. So, thank you, Mom. Accessibility and efficiency. So accessibility, the artificial intelligence that we built for free legal resources, it responds to you in the language that you input. So for the Spanish speakers like me in the room, if you talk to them in Spanish, it responds to you in Spanish. If you talk to them in Portuguese, it responds to you in Portuguese. And it's proficient in all law, in all countries, in all 50 states, all jurisdictions. So we've had users from all over the world already use it. So how has it become more inclusive? Because we started with the statutes, as I mentioned with my story, but it expanded beyond that, beyond criminal law. People needed to get instructions and orders of protection. They'll give you instructions in any language you wish, any jurisdiction, any state. You ask for resources, it can point you to the organizations that you all work at. Then custody law, family law, immigration law, it does all of them. Fascinating. And it started because people were just reaching out to us and saying, can you add this to what it can do? No problem. Within a week, we'll add it to it. And efficiency, we always like to keep the vocabulary like at a high school level or lower, so like everyone can understand. I've been thinking about how to answer this question, and I don't want to cry. So, challenges. I rewrote it. So, it's very painful to suffer domestic violence. And I never understood why people take their lives, or why they cut themselves. And thankfully I never did that. But now, God gave me the wisdom to understand. The reason is because the pain is so unbearable that even just existing hurts. So in that moment, when I had the idea to develop the artificial intelligence that will help people, the challenge came because I would make TikToks, and the users, the survivors, they would try it. But when you're a survivor, you're in a discombobulated state of mind, and as we know, trash in, trash out. So if you talk to the software and you're not very specific in what you need, then the output is not the best for your situation. And I realized as an entrepreneur in the journey that sometimes who you think is going to be your target audience when you develop a software ends up not actually being your target audience. So although survivors can go to the website and use it, I realized that the true users are the advocates and the agencies, and I will have to train them so they could then facilitate it for the survivors. So then I went on a journey, and I interviewed a lot of them. A lot of the people in the room are like the people that where my mom and I come from, Arizona, but we're originally from Argentina. And I realized after the interviews that I need to train the advocates. So my mission is to help the advocates shine. So you can all go back to work on Monday or tomorrow, and then you can share with them like, this is something that we could do. So I told myself that it doesn't matter who gets the credit. So Statute Match can be white labeled. You can put your own company on it, and we're willing to do free webinars so we can train your advocates, and we can get you up to speed beyond statutes and law. I can get up to speed your advocates on artificial intelligence. I use it every day. I program it, and it can make you so much more efficient and help you save so many more victims.
first conference and just being so vulnerable. So I really appreciate you. And I was going to save this question for the end, but if it's okay with you, I may ask it now. If you want to pass, you're welcome to do so, but you kind of started to talk about this. As a survivor of domestic violence, what is one thing that you could tell our advocates today that they can go home and to either educate or learn more about?
Forward, I think it will change the game for the way that she.
I know you mentioned that you could make phone calls to like common service providers you use. Can you also call the client through?
Amazing success stories. Congratulations. I'm going to share 2 success stories, mine and the one from one of our users, Jessica Mendoza. So for mine, what makes domestic violence worse is when it happens to you and an advocate can only take you so far, and then you have a lawyer that can pick you up at the other end, but then you're as a